In this video, we're going to take a look at a series of navigational commands specific to a 3ds Max camera. The options are not just handy, but indispensable if you're wanting to get the most out of being able to control a camera in a 3D scene. I'll be demonstrating how things work using a file named Camera Navigation Controls. You can find it in the Working Files folder. Let's begin by taking our layout back to 4 viewports, then activating any view other than the camera view. Looking down in the lower right-hand corner of the interface, you'll find the viewport navigation commands that are specific to that view. Zoom, pan, orbit, they're all there, and will be for any 2D or what is referred to as an orthographic view. If we instead activate the camera view, the story changes as we now have 6 specific icons that can be used to adjust and control our scene's camera. It's important that you know what they do and how they work. Let's select our camera, then activate the Modify column so we can see just exactly what's changing as we go through the options. Okay, back to having the camera viewport active, and we'll start on the top row, far left. The command will be called Dolly. Dolly physically moves the camera without changing its lens length. It acts as if the camera is moving along a rail or track. Now as we dolly, take a look in the top view. The camera is physically moving position as it slides closer and farther back in the scene. Notice also in the Modify column under Parameters, the lens length was not changing when we used the dolly command. There's also a couple other options underneath the dolly button. If we hold that down, we'll find both dolly target and dolly camera and target. Let's try those. Dollying the target leaves the camera set right where it was. If we instead dolly both the camera and the target, you can see the results in the view. Both parts of the camera move at the same time in the same direction. The command directly below dolly is called Field of View. Let's try that. We'll activate the icon, then move our mouse into the middle of the view. Now, changing the camera's field of view might give us a similar result, but how it's achieving that result is completely different. As you FOV the viewport, watch how the camera specifically stays locked in place. Over in the Modify column, you'll notice the effect being achieved by the camera's lens length changing. With a little experimentation, you'll find that the field of view changes inversely with what camera lens you're using. In other words, a smaller or shorter lens in millimeters will give you a wider field of view, whereas a longer lens, a lens with a higher millimeter count, will provide a more narrow field of view. We'll talk about that more during the chapter video entitled Changing a Camera's Lens Length. Let's go back up to the top row and we'll activate the icon directly to the right of dolly. It's called Perspective. Perspective works by moving both the camera's position and changing its lens length. It's kind of like a combination dolly field of view. Watch the results both in the top view and over in the Modify column. The camera physically moves either closer or farther away from the objects in the scene, and the lens length is changing. Note also that perspective is not a type of camera, but actually a type of camera control. Using perspective is designed to create more of a contorted view of a scene, similar to the way that you might see a deranged character in a horror movie, where the camera is positioned close up under his chin or nose, giving the viewer an uneasy or awkward feeling, all due to how the camera is being manipulated. Let's experiment with the truck command, which can be found directly below perspective. Trucking the camera viewport moves both the camera and its target. You can see that in all 3 of our flat 2-dimensional views. Under the truck, you've got the walkthrough command. Let's activate that. Now to use it, you're going to have to click directly inside the viewport. Using the arrows on your keyboard allow you to navigate now through the viewport, very similar to the way that you might walk through a video game environment. The up arrow pulls you closer. The down arrow pushes you back. Using the left and right keys move you from side to side. Back on the top row, to the right of perspective, you have the roll command. If using a target camera, roll will rotate the camera about its line of sight, kind of like spinning it from side to side. Now, if instead you're using a free camera, roll will rotate the camera about its z-axis, the up and down axis in other words. Directly below the roll icon, you have orbit, which is probably the one you're going to be using most often. Orbiting rotates the camera around its target. The camera picks up and moves position while the target basically stays where it's at. Under the orbit icon, you also have pan. This is going to rotate the camera around the target. So with pan, the camera stays fixed. It's the target that actually rotates around. You can most easily see that in the 3 other flat views. So there's the camera navigation commands, which by the way can also be animated, bringing even more control to how they can be used. Let's try that real quick. I'll activate the auto key, move to a later frame, then dolly the camera viewport. Once I've done that, I'll move a little farther back in time and orbit. I'll move further back still, orbiting back to more of a straight-on position. Then I'll field a view. I'll then truck just a tad to center the text within the screen. If we now scrub the timeline, we'll see the results of what we've done. Okay, there you go, Max's camera navigation commands. Very important tools, so make sure to take advantage of them when next working with a camera.